was going to say, we start right away with the clicker not doing his thing. Okay, we'll move on to that guy. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the 63rd annual IHEEP and nope, not going to do that. We are going to present a presentation that Pat and I put together for last year's conference. So I'd like to welcome you to the 2023 Utah IHEEP here. So we'll jump on in here. So the good news is you have a presentation that Pat and I have been working on for 15 months now. So it should be really good. The bad news is our time slot is half of what it was last year. So we're going to move pretty quickly as we go through here and answer some questions at the end. Again, really quickly, we are?
Patrick Lane. I work for the Department of Transportation in Montana. I am the BIM program manager.
And I'm Stephen Litsu. I'm a senior consultant with EnvisionCAD. We're long and short, we do design technology support on Autodesk and Bentley. So that's that. I want to talk today about design software implementation, specifically as it was done at Montana. We're going to give a little bit of the project context. Why are we doing an implementation? What's the reason for that? Talk a little bit about how this project evolved as we went through that. Share a little bit of the status, and this is where you guys reap an extra year of value here because we're a year further down in that implementation. And then offer some lessons learned out of this. So that's what we're going for as our objective, is to provide lessons learned in the context of MDT's design software transition that can be leveraged in system implementation. So we're going to use this design software transition as our kind of context for this. But if we've done our job well at the end of this, this is actually applicable beyond design software. You should be able to leverage this into document management, accounting systems, migration of zone platforms. So if we're doing our job well, hopefully you'll see some of that. Jumping right on in, why a transition? What are we doing? Well, there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, we're talking this week about the direction of the industry, and this is where the industry is going. Whether you use BIM or SIM or BIM for civil or digital delivery, whatever that language is, this is where the industry is headed. So it's where we're moving. So we're going to go ahead and follow along with that because that's our responsibility to our stakeholders, right, to the traveling public. I think in Montana's specific experience, one portion of this was a very successful bridge pilot, leveraging Revit and InfraWorks that kind of pulled into that. Second part of that, and paralleled with the direction of the industry, is the evolution of the tools. We got hardware coming in, we got new ways to capture data, we got new information, so we're starting to see tools that came out that were model-centric, and even if we were delivering our old deliverables, we can use that model for a lot of additional value. As a designer, that's always the what if. I can ask what ifs in a model. Okay, so we saw that tool evolution, and for any of those like me who have a long history in Bentley civil design, right, we're familiar with the deprecation of the GeoPack tools, so the open roads content replacing the Select Series content there. So certainly needed to happen. Now, one of the things with that early on was to look at the scope of that, and Montana identified very early on that they were going one of two directions, right? We're going to continue down the next iteration of this Bentley environment, or there's another tool out there called Civil 3D. And as I've seen in the implementations I do with DOTs, these lifts are very comparable in nature. The transition from GeoPack or InRoads to Open Roads Designer is not a, hey, we'll flip the switch and everybody Monday morning will be an Open Roads Designer. So we took the opportunity then to really look at the scope of what we were talking about and move forward into that. So intentionally address, we need design software to do what we're tasked to do. And so we're going to make a conscious, active decision on what that should look like. A little bit more context here. What we did then is we actually needed to do a proof of concept. So we did the first of two content kit development cycles. We're going to call this the functional kit, and it really was a proof of concept. Hey, this software is out there. It's new to us. Can we do what we do? So does it meet the needs that we have? And also helping to flesh out what are those needs? What are the things that we actually need to be able to leverage our design software for? One thing that was really kind of interesting in this evolution is that early iteration was very designer focused. We were sitting down with designers, Mike, people in Caitlin's position, and saying, hey, what are you designing? Let's look at your project and let's see if we can do that. We're going to come back to this a couple times in the lessons that we learned. It actually gave us the opportunity very early on to identify champions. Who are going to be the people that move this process forward? we first got socialization in that. Okay, we're moving as a DOT, right? We're moving software to something, right? So that started to become understood. But also there's a winning component that we're actually not moving for the sake of moving, but we're gonna find the next iteration of design software that's gonna allow us to be successful with that. All of that boiled down to really a translation. So we're looking at an enhanced GeoPack environment that's leveraging the Open Roads technology and migrating that over into the AutoCAD language. So levels go to layers, components and templates go to subassemblies and assemblies, text comes over, all of that. We're bringing in plan production. And since part of this was forward-looking, and Pat's gonna talk in just a minute about all of the things that lined up to make this happen, we're also gonna start to look at that data handoff. So not only working with designers, but construction. How are we gonna get you the information you want? Long and short, the successful proof of concept led us to the point that we needed to go to an RFP, and the project started to evolve from there. Pat?
Thank you. So let's talk about the project evolution, which of course started with intention. We started in 2015, and many of the documents that you're going to see fly into your screen helped guide the Department of Transportation during a 5 to 6 year period. We call that period a time when we began to strategize. We began to learn from the intelligence captured in these manuals. We began to learn about 3D implementation. We began to learn about modeling versus drafting. And we realized right about 2017, we need to begin to evolve. We need to begin to move our workforce and move our deliverables to a model-centric object. And we need to understand what that means and what that's going to entail. So, as I spoke about in the last presentation, we began with a SIM initiative. Many of you probably remember around 2016-17, SIM, Civil Infrastructure Management, was a large acronym in our industry, and everyone was talking about how do we begin to move from flat files to model-based intelligence. We then jumped into building information modeling. As many of you know, BIM became extremely successful back in the late 70s and 80s in the vertical construction world. BIM was proofed out by architects, engineers, HVAC professionals, plumbers, electricians. They began to collaborate using 3D models, vertical construction. They began to understand how, through collaboration, they could deliver more effective, more efficient, and better built projects. Hence MDT. The rest of the DOTs jumped into model-based development. At the time, we were on MicroStation SS2. We jumped into MicroStation SS4. As any CAD tool evolves, you have to take into consideration your workspace. How are you prepared from a workspace standpoint? How are you going to take those standards that you've created over time and lift those into that new tool? For us, it became GeoPack criteria versus open roads, a legacy workspace versus an enhanced workspace. How are we going to leverage new projects in enhanced while continuing to support legacy projects and criteria? We realized we got a lot on our plate. We're moving our workforce into new directions. And so we really began to look at engaging with what are now our partners in the industry and trying to learn from them, learn from other DOTs, and learn from pilot projects. Where are we going? I know this is probably really difficult for you to read, but I just wanted to point out with this slide, we did a lot of pilot projects with technology. We looked at PlanGrid, we looked at Bluebeam Review. We actually jumped into, as Steve mentioned, a very pivotal pilot project in Bridge with Autodesk. We then realized we need to take a look at ORD. We did a small, the West Laurel Interchange pilot project with ORD. We wanted to try to compare apples to apples. We then went into a document or a workflow discovery process with both Autodesk and Bentley. They brought subject matter experts and professionals into our environment. They interviewed, asked tremendous questions of our teams, and they tried to learn exactly how we were using these tools to deliver our product. That led to us realizing, we need to have an independent partner. We need somebody that's not from Autodesk, that's not from Bentley, but someone that we can work with to really help us understand not just where we're at, but where we're going. Sometimes the best advice that you can get is advice from an outside person or an outside source. So in 2019, we luckily met Bob from EnvisionCAD, and we signed a contract for services to help us provide advanced support and training to help us understand the tool set and to support our Bentley technical issues while we looked at what else was available. We also hired them to provide advanced training and mentoring for our CAD staff because we realized we had some gaps there. And EnvisionCAD came in and just, knocked it out of the park. After we lifted Autodesk on board, we realized, they're not done with us. We still need their help. So we renewed our contract with them, which I can say is still active to this day. We work with those folks day in and day out. They provide advanced support for our users, provide advanced knowledge tools and support for our systems, and provide training and mentoring to our CAD staff, continuing to work on legacy support, mentoring and training, Autodesk state kit development, and Autodesk pilot project mentoring. The CAD project, where we go from here. Well, we need to understand the next generation of CAD software. We were with, of course, Bentley Open Roads. We then looked at Autodesk Civil 3D. We needed to look for someone that could potentially help us, understand what that implementation might look like. We needed CAD best practices. We needed to understand what are our best practices. Do we have all that gathered up? As I said before, we did a documented discovery session, and then we went out for an RFP, put a lot of analysis and evaluation into that. I came up with this surfing the interwebs one day. If you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And it's kind of funny, but my goodness, that rings true. So now we come to product evolution and, of course, the RFP process. I'm not sure how many of you have gone through an RFP process of this magnitude, but it was daunting. To understand software functionality, maintenance support, training objectives, we needed to understand functional requirements, look at not just today, but the future functionality. What is this company that we're going to hitch our wagon to? What are they doing to ensure not just their future, but our future? How can we evaluate them? What's that criteria look like? And then, of course, we knew we needed an evaluation team and a set of qualifications. Cost, we're a DOT, we're stewards of taxpayer dollars. Cost, of course, is important. It's not everything, but it is important. And then product demonstrations. Can the tools actually do what they say they can do? Functional requirements review. We got with EnvisionCAD, and we put together a list of 270 individual technical requirements that we included in our RFP. We wanted to make sure that working with 30 individual subject matter experts from all disciplines, that we captured exactly what they were looking for, regardless of who provided it. And of course, we awarded that to Autodesk and US CAD. And what's important about this slide is we've created almost an extension of our CAD family through this partnership over the past several years. Of course, EnvisionCAD has been a huge player in that. They have been with us prior to Bentley. They've been with us post-Bentley. And we are literally working with them day in and day out. Autodesk, of course, is the platform we're on. And then, of course, our partnership with US CAD. And what's been amazing about this partnership is we've seen tremendous agnostic collaboration between EnvisionCAD and US CAD. So it's a reminder to us that as large as our transportation community is, everyone continually works together for the betterment of the industry. So then we got into planning. Kathy James and myself were leading the implementation, And we knew we couldn't go that alone, so of course, USCAD was there. We hired them to help us right the ship and to make sure that things moved accordingly and put a lot of planning into this. And then we have the evolution or the migration effort.
This is still you.
Is it still me? So
See, this is why you give presentations. You say you're going to present with them, and you just run the slideshow while they go.
we're, Steve and I put this together, as he said, and we're trying to shove an hour into 30 minutes. So, project charter, project management plan, scope of work, all of these things were critical to our implementation. We knew that we needed to have comprehensive and documented information. If we wanted to be successful, every one of these was a requirement to that success. I'm not going to go into this, but this is the implementation plan, and I'm more than happy to share this with all of you, but I want you to know that Kathy, myself, and a project manager named Matthew Vega from USCAD, this was our life for 14 months. And we went through everything from project planning to environmental configuration planning, user acceptance testing, the entire gamut we filled in 14 months. And it was a Herculean effort, and very, very proud of the team of people and the partnerships that we formed during this. To boil it down, there were 4 phases: tasks, objectives, assumptions, deliverables, responsibilities. That's 5. The 4 phases actually consisted of the project initiation, workflow validation, configuration and deployment, and support and maintenance. And within those 4 phases, each of those phases had those 5 bullet points. So for instance, workflow validation, we went through, what are the tasks, what are the objectives, what are we assuming, what will the deliverables look like for that phase, and and who's responsible for that. Numbers to date, it took us 14 months. 52 people were on the implementation team, including EnvisionCAD. And we spent 8,600 hours specifically dedicated to this implementation, which averaged out to roughly 28 hours per day, spread across those 52 people.
Can I relieve you now?
Please.
All within the time frame of still delivering Montana's transportation needs. So I think that's important to say. This was a Herculean effort done on top of the day-to-day work, because those members were, yes, partners, but also a lot of staff that was still having to deliver content as we go. Mentioned we went through kind of 2 iterations of the content kit. For those of you unfamiliar with kind of the language on Autodesk, the content kit or state kit, we'll use kind of those language interchangeably, is the configuration or the workspace content that's customizing the software to work. The second evolution of that really moved us out of that proof of concept and started to look at the question, okay, we can, but how do we? How does Montana do X, Y, and Z? With that, we needed to start documenting that and building that into the system. So the evolution of the content kit at this point was done asking the question of can we, but how are we going to? And in here, we've built some systems into the platform. We see there road layouts and geometric layouts and right-of-way layouts. These are not Autodesk layouts. This is how Montana does the work. So it's going to bring in the right tables, the right content for all of that. Starting to document that and communicating that is a huge effort. When you go from 30 years of experience on a design platform or a system over to something new. So we actually built that into the system. We're actually generating that content readily. That set us up to advance that. One of the things that just feels a little bit backwards if you take too big of a step back from this is at this point we actually moved beyond the users and went to managers and the support staff. And when I say manager here, I'm talking about the CAD and system managers at MDT. So as we got into this production kit, we got with Pat and Kathy's team, JJ, John, and Amanda, who are doing this day in and day out in their environment and saying, how do you do X? And so we started looking at those things. And what this really gave us the opportunity to do is to mature the system much quicker than we have in the past, where it took 15 years to kind of get to that point where you really know where you're at with GeoPack. But they said, hey, we generate these sheets. Why do you generate that sheet? Oh, for this. Do we still need that? No. Okay, so we're going to scrap that. here's the sheet we generate for this. Do we need that? Yes. How is that going to look in this environment? And starting to leverage that and managing that content just a little bit differently, because we are dealing with a little bit of a different animal here. The final component with that, after we kind of start to look at that system maturity from actually delivering that to the users, is actually looking at what I like to call the forgotten disciplines. I'm a roadway designer. If you put me in the software and let me design corridors 12 hours a day, I'm gonna be a happy camper. Don't get any ideas, Bob. I'm shutting down after 8, right? But there's a whole slew of other content that goes into these projects that doesn't have the flash of the software. So we gotta start to ask questions. How does right-of-way do stuff in here? What do they need? And really build out kind of the rest of that system so that we're no longer just saying, hey, we can do it, but making sure that we have the ability to deliver what is needed for the users to get their jobs done. So that was the content kit. And this is the process that is evolving to this day. And we're gonna continue to update this and work with this. Again, Pat and Kathy's staff, EnvisionCAD, Autodesk, we're continuing to evolve this as we go. Status.
Okay, so we'll jump into this just really quick.
Yep, there it goes.
So our status is we're currently delivering our program in Autodesk. We are, of course, still delivering some legacy projects in Bentley. These are examples of our plan sets we're cutting. We're still delivering 2D plan sets, and as you can see, they completely have that look and feel that our customers, our contractors are looking for. What I'm showing here is an example of the roadway elements that we're able to see now that we're 3D modeling. I thought this was important because this is a great visualization of the product that we're now able to deliver outside of just those plan sets. So, AEC collection, we jumped to 2022.1.3. We're now on .2.5. Bridges and structures, using the PDM collection and Inventor Pro. We're using the Autodesk Construction Cloud effectively, BIM 360. We have the Enterprise BIM Collaborate Pro licensing. MDT transportation, our TCP plan, we have 377 projects that are moved into Autodesk. All our projects are now moving or starting. Any new project starts in Autodesk. Of course, I mentioned we signed the 3-year training contract with US CAD. We've since renewed with EnvisionCAD. This is, as of October, the footprint for our entire TCP. We're looking at 283 projects, 70% of our 5-year program, 60% of all active consultant design projects, 80% of prime consultants have migrated to Autodesk, and 120 plus hours of classroom training. So we're really booking, we're moving quick.
We'll go back and forth here a little bit here. So Herculean effort, again, we're using that language. One of the things that we wanted to highlight here is kind of a transition, right? We came in knowing that we were coming off of a 30-year mature product with decades of experience and work in there. We knew we were gonna come in and have to regularly keep that update cycle going and moving, and early on to try and do that rapidly. New tools really require new methods, and the way Autodesk manages kind of all of that content kit information is very different than what we did with Bentley. So one of the things we did was brought in a tool. Right here, I got an email that I got sent just at the beginning of September. I want to draw your attention here really quick. The thing that we always look for in emails is what? That little underlined line that shows the link where I need to go. You'll notice that's not in here, and that's because what we did with kind of getting this to evolve is we've actually generated a tool called the State Kit Updater. Does a couple things. First of all, self-service, so the users can go out anytime they need and make sure they're current. Incredibly transparent. I can fire this up at any point and say, hey, yes, I have the new version. No, I don't, and do that. The final thing that this really did for us, it allowed us to unify our consumer experience. I am 2 years removed from having any hooks into MDT. I updated this last week to get current as an external user. So consultants and internal staff are being able to leverage this all directly, same experience, making sure everybody's getting the same content. Okay, the real meat here.
Yeah, so the lessons learned, as most of you know, there's always lessons learned when you do this type of thing, and that's Bob and I.
Younger.
Yeah, younger. So problems are gonna rise to the top, theory goes out the door. This was something that we became aware of relatively quickly. Prepare for the worst, plan for it. Assumptions, measure twice, cut once. I'll let you guys read through these. I really want to highlight partners matter. I talked about this a lot in my last presentation. You know, don't go it alone.
Which, I'll do just a couple final closing comments here. We'll take just a few questions. Don't Go It Alone is big. There's a great marketing book out there by Donald Miller called Story Brand, and he just goes to town on this idea that the guide is important to success. You think about Luke Skywalker, you think Yoda. You think Harry Potter, you think Dumbledore. You think Iron Man, Captain America, you think Nick Fury. So find a guide, find a guru. The great thing about this here is they may be in the DOT next to you. They may be sitting across from the table this afternoon or evening at dinner. Find that guide and do that. Define your needs and identify your strengths. You do have something to bring to the table. Be aware of that. But identify where do you need help. Training, great example. Can't do that if we're just learning the software. Let's bring in US CAD. Let's get that there. Finally, I put this last point in here because I want to give you the freedom to not have to know everything. I want to do everything, and that's a hindrance for me sometimes, but there's a difference between capability and capacity. A great example of this, Envision CAD, we want to do it all. This schedule that Montana brought for training and for support, something we couldn't do with the four of us that support Civil 3D. So you bring in US CAD, who has the capacity for that. And this is the one I'm going to really want to leave you with as we go here. Champions win championships. My boys play football at parochial school. 4 years ago, we got a new coach. 5 years ago, they were 3-11. They've been to the state championship twice and lost a heartbreaker before they got to the semifinals last year. And the reason they were able to do that, because Coach Simone talks about, to these young men, if you do what you need to do, if you are disciplined and you are responsible, you can be a champion. And if we have champions, we actually have the opportunity to win championships. So I'm really think that's important. It goes throughout the structure. So you need people in the trenches moving that forward. You also need that support at the senior level. So for those of you sitting in those senior levels, make sure you're vocally supporting those that are implementing systems. I don't remember one time sitting down with MDT and hearing, well, let me go run it by my supervisor. They had full-on support with that. And I think this is the differentiator. In our role, we spend a lot of time implementing systems with people, whether that's ORD or Civil 3D. Montana has been incredibly successful here. I have some DOTs I'm working with that they're slogging along, and I think one of the key differences is they've had champions throughout for that. So with that, I leave ourselves 3 minutes for some questions.
Can you go 2 slides back?
I can go 2 slides back.
Thank you.
That one?
Appreciate it, yes. Thank you.
That was an easy question.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you haven't, the sign-in code is there. Sign in quick before you go, but questions?
Yes, sir.
You may have mentioned it in a little bit of the slides just previous, but I noticed that it said that 80% of the consultant community had already moved forward. Did you find that majority of the consultant community already had Autodesk experience, which made that easier to adopt quicker in that way, or what was the
Yes.
sort of approach on that
So,
side?
probably rush through that slide a little bit. What I want to say is this, is that our consultant community mainly carried the Bentley products to support MDT. And what we found is that when we moved to Autodesk, they were raving that they would move with us. And a lot of the consultants were actually doing roadway, city, street, and highway work for counties, cities, municipalities in Autodesk already. So then they were able to take their DOT staff, train them, bring them up to speed, and we found a great response from our consultant community in moving. Another thing that we did, and this gets back to collaboration and partnerships, can't say enough about it, is US CAD partnered and reached out to our consultants. And we're able to provide them unique and identical training that we were being provided. And so they were learning our workflows through US CAD, while US CAD also was working with our staff. So it was a ground-up approach.
All of our conversation, and never asked you, where are you storing your workspace? Is it in the cloud? Is it SharePoint? Is
So,
it
interesting, so previously, we stored our workspace on a file share, and it was basically an internal file share that updated automatically to the user, was seamless to the user. And we realized that Autodesk had the ability to do both. It could be in the cloud, it could be in the local file network. But because of the remote environment, and because of the pandemic, we needed to look at this much differently, because some of our users in Montana, some of our employees might not have connectivity. So hence we worked with Envision CAD, building this state kit updater tool, and we now have the workspace living locally. gets provided and refreshed through the web, to the machine, through this tool set. So once they update, they can unplug and design.
Are you finding that since a lot of the universities lean towards AutoCAD, you have a better pool to pull from for employees as they're coming out of college?
100%. So one of the largest universities in Montana is Montana State University in Bozeman, and they have a huge footprint with the Autodesk tool set. They teach that to their engineers. We also have a development program at MSU, the MSU Design Unit, where we hire students. And now that we're moving to Autodesk, not only are we seeing more engineers coming to MDT out of school because they understand and recognize that we have this software, but they've also had an opportunity to be exposed to it at the MSU Design or through MSU's classes.
So, I'm sorry, can you elaborate on that? Because you said most of the students at that university, they have Autodesk tool. So is that part of their curriculum, or it's because of DOT has
No, it's
collaborated?
been part of their curriculum for quite some time, much earlier than when we implemented the Autodesk suite of tools. Autodesk reached out to MSU years ago and began to work with students in Civil 3D and to provide that educational assistance for the applications to be taught. We were getting engineers coming to MDT that had never experienced Bentley. And so now that we have Autodesk, we are seeing the learning curve is quite a bit different.
So, I'm sorry, can I have?
Yeah, I think we'll wrap up there. I think that brings us to our formal end. I'll offer Pat and myself happy to
I'll
stay and
stick
answer
around.
questions. I got some cards up here as well if you'd like.
I
Thank you
do
for joining
want to
us.
say one thing though, is that, you know, for us, it was never about Autodesk versus Bentley. It was about how can we provide the best experience we can to our users and to our customers. Bentley was a great partner for 30 years. We still see them as a partner. And I just want to put a shout out that this is not a we versus them or us versus them. This is an opportunity that the MDT had, and it's been a successful implementation and a success as of now.
You're leaving DOT and going into politics?
Sure, send me an email. Yeah, send me an email so I remember to get it to you. Yeah. Yeah, sure. It's personal, I'm sure. No, I understand. So. Yeah, yeah. So you do what you got to do. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Autodesk and also need to learn this because this is the future. If your students do not learn this, they're not going to have any opportunity in the future. And so, how would I pursue that?
I'd like to put you in touch with the gentleman here named Keith Warren who works for Autodesk, and they have an educational
Okay.
team that can help you with that conversation. It's also, they can also work with the university to upgrade the tool sets. Do you have a business card?
I don't know, unfortunately.
I will find it.
Perfect. I'm around here.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
you bet. Thank you. Great job, Steve.
Fantastic. Piece of cake. Only took us 15 months to get it done.
Patrick, you already went, right? Did you get one of these?
No, go ahead. I did.
You did get one. Okay,
Okay.
good.